Hello and a warm welcome to HW News, your one stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought provoking conversations. You remember 4th of May when results from the five states came and it almost looked as if BJP is invincible, except for, of course, one state in Kerala where Congress won the election. People started saying that Modi has now become much stronger than what he was in 2024. But then all of a sudden, what happened? Modi made seven appeals to the citizens of India where he asked them not to buy gold, not to travel abroad. Then he said that cut down on edible oils. And this appeal made him very, very unpopular because look at the way the negative reactions coming in on the social media that he's not able to handle the crisis arising out of Iran war. All it could have taken was for Prime Minister Modi to go to Tehran or rather speak to Mujtaba Khamenei and speak to him because Iran is our old friend. And Iran would have heard out Prime Minister Modi. But what did he choose to do? He chose to appeal to the citizens and ask them to do their duty rather than him doing his own duty. Then there are several other issues which have come up in the last 2, 3 days. Look at how the NEET paper leak has happened and the exam got cancelled. Now, 22 lakh aspirants who appeared for the NEET exam, they are they are criticizing the Modi government for having cultivated this paper leak mafia. Then look at how this CBI selection process was underway yesterday, where Rahul Gandhi submitted a dissent note saying that LOP is not a rubber stamp. So is Modi really losing face despite a huge electoral victory, as is being claimed during the recent five state elections? Joining me this evening is Anshul Abhijit, who is the Congress spokesperson and someone who's been a TV anchor himself. Thank you so much, Abhijit, for joining. My first question to you is that people have been saying since the time these election results came, people said that Modi is now invincible and all the regional parties have got decimated and he's become more powerful. But what happened in the last few days once he made these appeals to the citizens and he's roasted literally on the social media?
No, let's get the record straight, Nidu, and I'm delighted to be here at your show. Um, uh, the Prime Minister was never invincible. You know, he was never this messianic entity as it's made out to be. I mean, it was a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in which you project an image of a person and you try and become that. You still hasn't got there. Even if you go at the electoral records, the BJP has been winning elections on a margin of say 36, 37%. That means 63 or 65% of the people have actually been voting against him. You know, in the first past post the system, that is what it requires. But that's not enough. That is not a reflection of the kind of popularity that is projected to be all this while. And the Prime Minister usually disappears during any kind of crisis management. It's been an absolute disaster while managing any form of crisis. This is the most highly inept government. You know, why talk about now? Let's go back to COVID, which was another kind of a black swan, whatever it was called. It was at that time our economy really plummeted. You did not order vaccines for 1 year. You remember the second wave in which bodies were floating down the Ganga. We never even got to know the exact death rate of the number of people who died during that terrible, terrible time. Most of us, including me, we lost relatives during that time. That can't be forgotten. It was the ineptness of this government and the Prime Minister himself. There was an ill-conceived lockdown. Within minutes, nobody had any time to prepare. There was another lockdown again. There was hardly any preparation by this government, and this was all leading up to it. Our economy really plummeted because it was said during that time that why did India perform the worst during COVID among all emerging economies, and that was simply because it'd been performing really badly even before COVID. The headlines that screamed in 2019 I remember we did a presser, the Congress party, saying that unemployment is at a 45-year high. So at that particular time, beginning from demonetization, it's been a disaster for this government as far as the economy goes. The demonetization was a suo moto. It wasn't compelled by anything. A step in which completely decimated the economy, threw it under the bus, from which it never recovered. Then you had a clunky sort of GST, middle of the night kind of formulation, terrible, in which the MSMEs were completely wiped out. So whatever was left. And then you had, corporate tax cuts, all kinds of incentive to industry. They never invested. And then you had COVID, which whatever was left, whatever savings people had, that all went in the recovery of COVID. So people had no money. One after another, there's been acts of this government in which there has been which has led to dire consequences. Now, prelude to this, now we're coming back to what has happened. Now, whatever happens anywhere in the world, India will suffer the most because it's already on a weak footing. So it's not that we can grow from strength. So all this hullabaloo about us being the fourth largest economy, now it's come down to the fifth, I think, because our rupee has weakened so much that even we've lost that accolade. Right now, it's come down to the fourth largest
We were
economy.
supposed to be a 5 trillion economy, but after Prime Minister Modi made those announcements, apparently the share market lost 4 trillion.
But yeah, it's been a complete disaster. Anyway, FIIs are pulling out. You have no FDIs. There's one bad story after another. I've got an entire list I can go on after this because I know the dire state of our economy. So the economy has been plummeting. You've been tom-tomming the fact that you've become this great economy. After the Pahalgaon and the operations in Dood that we had, we've even lost our place in the global high table. We are nowhere in the global conversation. After this Davos summit, and a lot of people came, talking heads on TV shows. You must have seen them. You've probably interviewed a lot of people, economists around the world. It was said that even at Davos, where a lot of the great economists of the world meet, they discuss the future strategy. India was not in the conversation. Simple, and the Indians who went there to represent anything did deals that they could have done sitting in a hotel over here in Delhi or any room. So they didn't have to go to Davos. India was a marginal player even in Davos. It is said by major economists. You read the pink, even the pink papers are saying it. India is not in the conversation. It has a huge economy. Yes, it does, but that is not because of the government. It is because despite it, because it has to, by its very logic of having a population, there is going to be some demand and there's going to be some economic transaction, right? But the government has done its best to destroy the economy because of complete ineptness. You can see it in every single step that the government has taken. Yeah.
Anshul, do you feel that Prime Minister Modi, or for that matter, BJP government, wasn't transparent with the citizens of India when it said that we need to brace up for a COVID-like situation? What does that mean? And now, once the elections are over, then the citizens are told that they need to do this, they need to do that, they should not buy this, they should not buy that.
Imagine the irony, Nilu, that you have a 5 trillion, 4 trillion, whatever trillion it is. God knows that number is meaningless because when you go to per capita, you go to other kind of social indicators, you will see that we are lagging, far, far behind in all social economic indicators, right? So this is being propped up by a formal economy, a section of it, which is fine. But the problem with that is, imagine the irony of having such a large economy and the prime minister telling you to take austerity measures, right? This is not the days of the freedom movement, when you come out of colonialism, where actually there is a dire crisis, when there is nation building. Here you've got 11, 12 years of a government which is supposed to have kept the economy. They give tranches after tranches, big announcements. Atmanirbhar Bharat, 28 lakh crores have been disbursed. I mean, where are those 28 lakh crores? Another example, a small example, our biggest problem facing this country, a dire economic situation aside, and I'll come to foreign exchange for a minute. But before that, it's known to be unemployment. Leave aside social tensions, which are the highest, other kind of things. It's unemployment. The government started in the budget to 2024 a ELI scheme, which is employment linked incentive. First they had a PLI, now they had an ELI, in which they're going to pay both the employer and the employee a certain amount of money. That scheme, announced in budget after finally recognizing that there is a problem, was only passed by the government, believe it or not, Nilu. And the next year, in July 2025, so 1.5 years later, 1 year later, and then I would like to know how many jobs it's given. There is not a single job. Nobody's even talking about it. Least of all the financial papers. Where are those schemes? Where are those grand announcements that you make? Not just now you gave कि MSMEs को इतना पैसा देंगे, वहां पर इतना ज्यादा जाएगा, उनको बहुत जरूरत है. एक तो जरूरत है तभी देना पड़ रहा है, ये उन्होंने स्वीकार किया, ये भी बहुत बड़ी बात है. They've acknowledged the fact that they are in trouble, so they're giving out money and they've announced a grand sum. I've forgotten these high numbers because I don't know what they are. They've announced some lakh crores. It's never going to reach them.
This crisis, Anshul, this crisis arising out of Iran war. Now, is this a self-invited problem for Prime Minister Modi? Because we were seen so close to sitting with America, we were seen so close to sitting with Israel that the Modi government didn't bother at all to call up Iran and express their solidarity with the people who were killed, or for that matter, even express condolence. And Iran has felt bad, and which is why we are seeing a crisis of this proportion now. So, what should Modi government, or rather Prime Minister, should be doing at this point of time?
No, any kind. A lot has been spoken about the diplomatic heft of this government. But where does it go when in times of crisis? How do we benefit from it? On the eve of this, the West Asia crisis and this invasion, the Prime Minister, for reasons which are completely unknown to me, if you know them, please tell me. Prime Minister actually went on the invitation of Israel over there. Right? We don't know why he went there. It was an uncalled for visit. It was actually Bibi Netanyahu's turn to come to India, but then he went there. We don't know why. And then this suddenly erupts. In a couple of days, this war suddenly erupts. We don't know what was the purpose of that. We don't know. Right? How the government, it was our pitch in the aftermath of what happened last year in Pahalgaon and Operation Sindoor. Our diplomatic heft seem to have been withered away. We were not a part of any dialogue. Also, in the high table, in the global high table, we were no longer consultants. We weren't considered for anything. Every time the President Trump says anything on any topic that he stopped wars, he brings India first, right? He mentions this for the umpteenth, possibly now for the 100th time he's mentioned it. We don't know about the truth of that, but forget that. I'm not going to go into the controversies regarding that issue. Whatever happened, happened. But the fact is that our diplomatic heft, which we talk about, and one of our closest friends and allies, right? We've developed a close relationship. It's been historical ties. Not only that, ties, Shiite communities, religious, cultural, enormous amount of ties we have with that country. And we just let it wither away. We don't know how we are going to repair those things. We should have got an advantage. We don't. Right? So, and because of that, we are facing a grave crisis because of the crude oil problem and natural gas as well. And now the Prime Minister is saying, no, fasten your seat belts and this is going to happen. And we don't know. These are really ominous signs, by the way. You don't know what is going to happen.
Look at the optics today before the cabinet meeting started. Prime Minister announcing that he's cutting down the strength of the cars in his convoy. Similarly, Amit Shah also cutting down the number of cars in the convoy. That we will use less of fuel, we should shift to the electric vehicles. These are the kind of announcements, and which mainstream media is going gaga over it.
Look at the announcement. A complete eyewash. What happened to the convoys when you were having the elections? That one so a long time back. The elections were held a month into the war. You know exactly what was going to happen. You don't know how long this war will last. It seems pretty unresolvable to me. It can continue indefinitely. You have only that much foreign exchange. It might seem a lot. $700 billion might seem a lot, but actually it's very little. It can go away in an instant. A lot of it a bulk of that foreign exchange also comes from remittances which have been affected by this war. So what is the future of your foreign exchange? You may have something now, and that is not the government's doing. It comes from a variety of various factors. Right? Then you stop duties on gold. You start sermonizing people and tell them what to buy and not buy. Unofficially, it's always telling them what to wear, not wear, eat, not eat anyway. What kind of history we should read. There is policing everywhere in the kind of way we think. our psychological policing is relentless. But now he's actually saying, imagine the fourth, fifth largest economy in the world. The prime minister is telling you, do this, don't do that. What is the largest economy? It's an absolute disgrace. But much more dangerous is we don't know what we are in for. What we don't know what is coming right now. That is the more important. What other measures are going to be taken? What kind of other curbs will be there? Demonetization had a number of curbs in the long queues. We don't know what is the nature of this warning and how it's going to play out.
All right, now coming to the next issue of the NEET exam paper leak, which happened, and then finally the exams cancelled. You remember in 2024 when this NEET scam broke out, the DG of NTA, that is a national testing agency at that time, Mr. Subodh Kumar Singh, he was removed and shunted out. But later on, we realized that he was sent to the Steel Ministry. Then he went to, then he was made the chief secretary, the principal advisor to the Chhattisgarh chief minister. Is what would you say to the manner in which these kind of paper leaks are being handled by the government?
Going back to 2024, the exams were never cancelled then. So the government says, no, the integrity of the system and of the institution of the process is still intact, right? I think the Supreme Court also upheld that view. It didn't do it. This time, it's acknowledged, at least, like employment after 11 years, acknowledge the fact that there is a rot in the system that has run so deep that we have to cancel the exam. At least that is acknowledged. Now, as for the IS, this problem is really runs very deep. It's not about one individual. This the here now who was responsible, who's heading the this process at the moment, was just brought in 2 months back. You cannot have such an important exam coming up, which is imminent, and have someone at the helm just brought in 2 months back. I don't know how competent or incompetent the person is. I mean, there are other officers that speak that no, in 2 months, these things can happen. The problem is that the rot in the system runs really deep. The education ministry has said there was a commission that was set up. We don't know. It was just a simple eyewash. There were 101, I think, suggestions that were given by them, including to have an online exam, right, which were never followed. They said that these are a composite list of suggestions. You follow all of them, and you will have the results. The result will be that the leaks will be severely minimalized. You never know what's going to happen. No system is foolproof. But just like the IIT exams, which are online, or other exams which are relatively free and which are credible, the CBSE exams, for example, a lot of us have taken those exams. We trust the credibility of that exam system. That is not there in such a critical exam, where 25 lakh people participate in this exam in an effort to be doctors, right? They're looking after our health. Such a critical exam, and you've left it to the weather gods. I don't know what you've left it to. Certainly, you have not taken a proactive decision. None of the recommendations of the Radhakrishnan Commission, which was instituted then, have been recommended now. And what have you, as a result of which, you've had another paper leak. At the level, last time I remember, absolutely outrageous, where they had full marks from one particular center. They had 67 people getting 720 marks. The dates of the exam were adjusted during the somehow the results were adjusted to match with the election dates. All kinds of things. These kind of arbitrary decisions you get at one person 2 months before the exam, such a critical exam is about to take place. What is the education ministry doing? We'd like to know. Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan that time also assured us this is not going to happen again. It's now happened. So this is a repeat offender. There must be a structural change in which how this is supposed to happen. It happens at various levels. Maybe it happens at the level where the papers are kept in a bank locker, or people say that it happens at that level. We don't know. But there has to be. You cannot hold to ransom. Yeah.
The very idea that the papers are getting leaked over WhatsApp, what does it show about the entire system, the way it's functioning?
Absolutely appalling. No, they haven't learned their lesson. This was done not so far back in our living memory. Many people have, they have forgotten or choose to forget COVID, which was a little earlier, not that much. We should never forget the kind of things that happened then and the government apathy. But this happened much more recently. This happened in 2024. So 2024, the same thing happened. You got away with it, you know, touting the credibility of the institution and the framework and the system and the process, so you don't have to do anything. But this time you acknowledge it. What are you going to do afterwards? Have another commission? Have another eyewash? How will their suggestions be more different than the one given in 2024? What will you do now? They won't do anything. Look, this government is severely inept in handling anything. Least of all the economy. What they're really good at is raising hatred, raising social tensions to a high pitch. So that, what happened in Bengal, I'm still amazed. I can't even listen to people even after they won the election. They keep saying all this, bringing all the hatred in their rhetoric. अरे भाई आप जीत गए, अब तो शांत हो जाइए. चुनाव वो कैसे जीते वो भी एक और कहानी है, वो किसी दिन और बात करेंगे. That's what I'm trying to say. There are, you talk about the appeal of the prime minister. That's what you began with. The appeal of the prime minister. The appeal of the prime minister is built on a number of things. You know, uh, School children being forced to listen to Man Ki Baat, what it began with. But it's a lot of manipulation, a lot of transgression of executive power. Where you manipulate votes, and
No,
when
but
you manipulate
his
votes.
votes, all this is fine. That he's captured the institutions. He's doing things a wrong way. The processes have been compromised now. Whether it is the selection of the CBI director or whether it is the Bengal elections, but Modi seems to be invincible because the opposition. I don't know how it's going to to count. How is the opposition is going to counter this?
No, the invincibility. That's what I'm trying to say, Neelu. Look at the South, by the way. Now the Congress is now in at least 4 states in the South. In the North, they try to polarize and consolidate their vote bank. But that's what I'm trying to say. The invincibility of the prime minister itself is propaganda. It is an attempt to say that, listen, we've got this electoral outcome. It's a kind of very Newtonian thing they're saying, that there is a cause and there's a likely effect. The cause is Modi, and the likely effect of that is electoral success. That is not the case. This is not a Newtonian what is happening is not cause and effect. It is not Newtonian. It is an artificial situation in which first of all, the votes are artificially propped up for a number of reasons. We can discuss that at another time. It happened during Maharashtra. It's happened during now. And there was a severe indictment of the government in 2024 as well, when they lost their majority in the House. They would have got a lot less seats. I fought that election, so I know what the nature of that, what that was. But what they say is that, yes, we are going to manipulate the system. After manipulating the system and artificially raising the votes through deletions, then you get a electoral success, and then you attribute that to the success of Modi.
Let's
That is the
believe.
logic.
No, but let's believe for a moment that Prime Minister Modi, or for that matter, BJP, will continue to contest elections in this manner. They have a Bengal template now, and they will implement that template in other elections also. What is the way out for the opposition? Many people have been suggesting that now the opposition, it's high time that they should boycott elections.
No, well, there is a view on that. I don't believe in abdication. The only way to fight it out and somehow make the government relent, because it's not that it's succeeding in every other way. It's not the economy is booming. It's not that they have an efficient form of administration. Manipur it took 2.5 years for the prime minister to go to Manipur. He didn't go. Still, look at the situation over there. How do you handle, administratively, economically, in every way? How do you handle it? I know it's a difficult country
There
to
is the
govern. It's not
problem,
easy.
Anshu, that despite all the blunders which Modi government is making, all those lapses are very, very evident. They are communicated well also by the opposition. But when it comes to fighting the elections on the ground, those blunders, those issues don't get translated into votes. So, is there a problem in the way the opposition is communicating? Or is there some major, major problem which opposition is still trying to get hold of it?
That's an excellent question. I don't doubt that there is a core popularity of the prime minister and the BJP that must exist. And I am not even afraid of saying that no, the opposition also has to do its bit. Every party, including every party, not just about stitching alliances, but what the BJP seems to do is that, apart from this kind of transgressive use of the executive power, capture institutions and manipulate all that, they also see they have a vast amount of resources which they deploy almost at, here the austerity never comes in. The convoys don't stop when elections go on. Now the prime minister must sermonize on the number of convoys. Where did it happen during the elections? The vast amounts of money, completely disproportionate, that you can see that in the electoral sort of bond scheme now scrapped, in which party got that. That's just a small instant. So vast amount of resources, manipulation of the system, and yes, I do agree. Also, polarization of the electorate by this constant kind of dialogue, sickening. Though it's Guspetia and all, it meant I didn't succeed in Jharkhand when I was there. I don't think it succeeded even here. I think it's more resilient. But this relentless kind of hatred and trying to divide the electorate, that's working. And I also know there are a lot of weaknesses within the opposition parties, who reaching out to the voters, getting their message across. Maybe the kind of publicity they should be there. Maybe the organizational heft and strength that the BJP does a lot. So it does all this, but it also does that. It does it at the grassroots level, the booth workers at the particular level, at grassroots level. It needs to improve itself. And I do agree. I mean, I'm not going to hold back from not critiquing the opposition or any other party. That won't be fair. I do agree that there is one, but you have to get. I think what we've been trying to do is rectify all these issues. Have stitch alliances, reach out to the people, be more effective in our
Do you
communication.
believe that after the Bengal election results, it almost appears that like regional parties have got decimated, and now the real fight will be between Congress and BJP in 2029?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's too premature to say that. One election doesn't say that a party's got decimated or not. That I think that whichever number, Indian democracy, as I keep saying, हमारी जमहूरियत सबको एक निमंत्रण देती है, सब आए, शामिल हो. Indian democracy is highly invitational. Everyone is invited to partake if it's a fair and square democracy, right? I love that about Indian democracy. Everyone, we are so deeply politicized, we don't realize it or not. Everyone realizes this, and we are keen to select government. So everyone there should participate. One party, bipolar elections, or trap, whatever it may be, whatever the combination may be. But everyone is to participate. We have to find out, as an opposition which are ideologically similar, believe in similar values of secularism, of social justice, of inclusive growth. All these things get together and form an alliance, whatever may be the nature of that alliance, and move forward. Yeah.
But my last question to you, Anshul, before I wind up the show,
Sure.
that despite all these electoral victories, are we in a position to say that Modi is actually losing face amongst the people, because he still remains popular? People still are falling for his
Yeah.
schemes, his announcements. Look at the Jhalmuri video which he did. So he actually remains still very, very popular.
No, so I would make that distinction. This is highly nuanced, but I'll make that distinction. There is a to think that how popular he is an abstraction, as we can't prove it. The only way we can do it through outcomes, which I don't think are fair. So even that is gone to us. I don't doubt his popularity at all. I'm sure there is. The problem is that electorates all around the world, if you take a fair and square election and you say the BJP or the prime minister under his helm is winning, then I'm willing to concede the point that sometimes people leave aside economic suffering, their own economic suffering, and vote for a greater sentiment. It may be religious polarization, it could be anything else. This happened all over the world. Economic suffering is not a barometer for a kind of electoral failure or success. That's the mistake a lot of people seem to think. It's not Newtonian, right? Again, right? Oh, I'm suffering, so I'm not going to vote for the government in power. It doesn't work like that. If there is a greater sentiment at work, which might appeal to me, a charismatic person, yes, in a classic sociological sense, charisma does work. I don't think his charisma is as much as made out to be. So that remains to be tested. But I do think that has this the idea of religious polarization, where you national majoritarianism, where you nationalize a religion, that has had some traction. I'm not so cynical. I believe that India is a highly secular nation, right? And it will go back. It doesn't like what is happening. There is already, you can see it on social media. It doesn't really like what is happening. Right now the system has taken over, so maybe they're feeling helpless, but they're going to hit back. It's going to be a different kind of India we're going to see.
Right. All right, so we'll have to end it here. Thank you so much, Anshul, for joining on HW News. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Neelu.